Hi guys, this is Mrs. Spence, and starting today, we will now begin something called a literature circle. And a literature circle is basically kind of like a book club. So it's a group of people that come together, they read the same book, and they will read different checkpoints. So for example, I might assign chapters 1 and 2, and you will only read till the end of the second chapter, and then you will complete a worksheet depending on what job you've been assigned. So I'm now going to jump through and explain the different jobs. Okay, so the very first job is called a connector. All right, kind of like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. If you are the connector, your job is to at least make 2 connections to the reading assignment. So if you read the first 2 chapters, you would have to make at least 2 different connections in those first 2 chapters. There's 3 different types of connections that I want to remind you about because you have to pick 2 of the 3, at least 2 of the 3. If you have 1 of each, you can do all 3. Okay, the first one is called text to self. So a text to self connection means that you can relate something that you read to an experience that you've had. So for example, if you're reading a story about a birthday and it made you think of one of your birthday parties, then your text to self would be explaining how the birthday that you're reading about reminded you of your birthday. When you're filling in your connections, just to see here, you make sure that you put the page number of where the connection occurred. Okay, so it might be something you want to do as you're reading. The second type of connection is called a text to text. So that means that when you're reading, something that's happening in the story reminds you of something else that you've read, whether it's in a book, a magazine article, or it could even be a movie, because technically movies start out as a script that people read. So even though they're speaking it, it's still something that they read. So for example, maybe there's a superhero in the story and it reminds you of Batman, and then you would explain how the superhero in the book you're reading reminds you of Batman. Okay. Finally, the last one is called text to world. That's probably the trickiest one. But a text-to-world connection means that something that you're reading reminds you of something that actually is happening or has happened in the world. So for example, right now, I don't know if you've seen on the news, but there's tons of wildfires that are destroying forests in California and houses. So if I were reading a story right now that had to do with a fire, it would probably make me have a connection, a text-to-world connection, and I would connect to the fires that are going on in California. All right, so again, a connector, make sure you fill out the name, the date, the book title, what your assignment reading was, and you'll pick at least 2 of these. But if you have time, I try to do all 3 because I think that you can do it. All right, so I look forward to seeing what you're doing and hear your group's discussion. And remember, when you fill this out, you're going to be sharing your connections with your group, and they'll all have other jobs that they'll be sharing with you. All right, thanks. Thanks for listening.